Perez. Liverpool makes a run ahead of them. Bergkamp suddenly changed pace through the centre. It's Bergkamp! That's magnificent!
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Gooners podcast as we gear up for a massive match week at Anfield. I'm Jared. With me, as always, my man in Denver, who is not at his best today with illness, but as they say, the show must go on. Andy, how you doing, buddy?
I'm like you said, I'm a little sick. I think for us to have two podcasts in a row, week to week, we're crushing it. Last week, I started to feel the chest infection. I was sucking on cough drops the whole show. And now I'm upgraded to antibiotics whenever I can get to the pharmacy. So life goes on, but excited to be here and chat a little bit of Arsenal.
Yeah, if there was ever a week we don't want to miss, it's the one leading up to Anfield. So I'm glad we could get it together for what will probably be a pretty short and sweet episode of the show. Before we jump into today's topics, I had to give you a shout. Last week, we ended our show with predictions for the Leeds match. And for those of you who have watched it, you may already know where this is headed. Andy Rhodes' prediction was 5-0 Arsenal with a Gyökeres brace. Couldn't have hit the nail on the head anymore. So shout out to you for that.
Nostradamus.
The Nostradamus of the podcast, which makes me a little excited for the end of this one. We'll see what you've got in store for us for Liverpool this weekend. But before we jump into that, I think we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about Champions League draw that happened earlier today. Let me pop that up on the screen for anybody who's watching on YouTube.
We got a lot of people on Twitter too. Hello, everyone.
Yep. Courtesy of Ben Jacobs over on Twitter. Here's the list of the fixtures. First glance, right when I saw it, my initial thought was this feels like a pretty good draw. What did you think when you saw it? And is there any match on here specifically that kind of intrigues you more than the others?
So I completely forgot this was today, full transparency. And I didn't catch it until the end. It's weird because I now live in this state of like when I would have seen Bayern away, I would have thought 4-0 thrashing. And then Inter, I would have thought, okay, maybe a point. I literally don't fear any team in the world. I think that on paper, we have one of the deepest teams in Europe. Defensively, I think we have literally the best back 5 or 6 that you could put on paper. And so I'm really intrigued with, obviously, the Bayern match because we have that history with them. But I'm also like, I think looking at that, I think that we probably drop a handful of points. Not many. We drop a handful, right? I would say how many, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 games. I'm thinking we at least maybe drop 1. But that's a really friendly draw. What do you think?
Yeah, first look, I thought it was pretty easy. Away to Inter is definitely a difficult matchup for sure. Bayern, it feels like if we're in the Champions League, we're going to see Bayern Munich. So no surprise there. I'm glad we have them at the Emirates. Same Atletico we have at the Emirates. It seems overall pretty favorable. And just in terms of logistics and travel, I saw Tom at Football London already put up on this. I think we travel, his estimate was about 1,800 miles less in total. So anytime we've got the two of the most difficult matches there at home, and then also we're not having to travel as much or as far for those away matches, it just seems like it's about as good as you could have asked for going into it.
The fixture list that it shows, that's the order in which we play them, right?
I believe so, yes.
So, ultimately, look at this motherfucker. Oh, we're podcasting. No, you don't get to say we anymore, okay? Man's out here trying to do buy real estate instead of podcasting with us. What's nice is that the 2 hardest fixtures or the 3 hardest fixtures are the first 3, right? So for, arguably, I think if you come out of those poor, at least going into that final run-in, with all due respect to those teams, we should be maximizing points. I could say, yeah, maybe we drop points to Bayern and or Inter. I would take 4 out of 6 off the bat. But I don't think Madrid's where they used to be. Bruges, really fun club to watch, but they're not anything to, Olympiacos, they're always kind of hit or miss. I don't even know where, is it FC Kairat?
Yeah, that one, I believe it's right up near China, but I'm not 100% sure on that one. I think that would be the team that's the furthest from us, but luckily in that case, they're coming to us, so no travel worries on our end.
And then Bilbao, not a problem. It will be fun to see Nico, though.
I was going to say, if there was ever any little added layer to any game, that would be the one that, he may get a glimpse at what could have been had he decided to change his trajectory. It sounds like he's ultimately going to end up at Barcelona after this season. But, I respect him staying with his sort of home club. His brother plays there, so I understand it. Yeah. But it'll give me an interesting look at what life could have been like had things gone slightly differently for him.
Absolutely. It'd be fun to watch. I will be remiss if I don't mention a big thank you to Mike, who took a whopping 2 minutes out of his day yesterday to give us full control of our YouTube page. It took us a week to get him to do it, but much respect for him to set aside the 2 minutes to support us.
Yeah, always appreciated. What's up, BX? Good to see you in the chat. An interesting note here from Mike. He says, absolutely not in order of games 1 through 8. So there you go. That's not the order those will be played in as they were posted by Ben Jacobs. So we'll get the order out as we get it and see where we fall. But we're going to move ahead. We want to talk about Anfield as much as we can. One of the most intriguing fixtures every season, Arsenal at Anfield. So before we go too in depth, just give me your initial thoughts going in there and your overall confidence level as going into a place where historically we've had a lot of difficulty.
Yeah, I'm not as excited or confident about this match as I was prior to Leeds. I'm confident that we get to play Liverpool early in the season before their new players are meshing and gelling. I think for us, you could say the same. However, you've got Eze coming into a squad where he probably starts, but he's also played with Declan Rice. He's played with Madueke. He's played with Ethan. There are going to be certain areas of the pitch that he's going to be comfortable playing. So I assume we're going to go with him on the left, Victor up front, Madueke on the right. That is a confidence. I think we've got great depth there. Madueke against Leeds looked phenomenal. Leeds are not Liverpool, but Liverpool's backline looked shaky. We saw what happened against Newcastle. I personally think Nick Pope should have probably saved 2 out of those 3 goals. That last one was absolutely ridiculous. So I'm pretty confident going in, but, and then we'll do score predictions at the end, if we walk away from Anfield with a loss, it's not end of the world. Oh my God, we're like in panic stations, because I do think we are the only 2 teams capable of winning the Premier League this season.
Yeah, I think a lot of people would agree with that. And I wanted to touch on a couple of things you mentioned. One, and I think we talked about this last week, just playing some of these teams early in the year that have new players is a little advantageous for Arsenal, as we can catch them before they really potentially hit their full stride. Even more so now with Liverpool, with the news today that Tesla signed a new striker, so it's looking more and more likely that they're going to add Alexander Isak to the squad. So catching them before he's in the group is, obviously going to be advantageous for us at a notoriously difficult place to play. But the other thing you mentioned that I wanted to touch on, because I think it's interesting to think about what the front 3 is going to look like for Arsenal. You mentioned Aberche Eze playing on the left. I think that would make sense, but I'm a little torn between what makes the most sense going in when Saka's out and Odegaard's out. Madueke's best position is on the right, so I think it makes sense to slot him in for Saka. So the real question becomes, at the 10 and put Eze out left, or do you kind of stick to guys traditionally best position, stick Eze at the 10 and start Martinelli out left? He's obviously not been in his top form in quite some time, but in his Arsenal career, he has tended to have some very good performances at Anfield. The last game we played them there where we drew, he did bag a goal back in May. So do you think there's going to be an option that we see Martinelli reintegrated for a game as big as this one?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's a good point. I think, when you look at how fragile that Liverpool back line has been, maybe having him run at speed with them would be advantageous. But then I think about Eze brand new to the squad, only a couple training sessions. Can he pull the strings, right? There's like being that player who's capable of going out and having a great performance, but then there's that being that teammate that knows what everyone around you is doing. He obviously, like I said, has the experience with Madueke being England teammates, going through the youth program and systems with him. But when you're not doing that week in and week out, it's really hard. So that's why I think more than likely you have Ethan playing in that Odegaard role. And then you also have, I would say, him starting on the left. But yeah, it's a good point, Jared. Like, I would not be surprised if, to your point, you come out with Martinelli on the left. But have we gotten any updates on Odegaard? Because, yeah, he hurt his shoulder. He was included in the Norway squad, right? So they obviously presume he's able to go to the international break. Have we gotten any updates as to if he's going to, are we Jose Mourinho in this where we just won't know until the day?
I've not seen an update, and I see Dini here commented, Odegaard central to our control against a team like Liverpool, who's capable of overrunning you. If he's fit, I'd start him. I completely agree with that. If he's available to play, I think he starts. He's not just the captain, but he's the one who sort of organizes the press and is one of the most active players in our press. And I think it'd be a bad mistake to leave him out if he was able to play. If he's not able to play is where all the questions come in. And we'll probably get some questions answered on what the team's going to look like the rest of the season. We'll see if Martinelli gets a chance to get back in. We'll see where Eze is deployed, because I think everyone agrees he's definitely going to play this weekend and probably play maybe even a bigger part than Mikel Arteta originally planned, given the injuries. But the area that kind of intrigues me most with Eze isn't going forward, it's what it leads to on the other side. Mm-hmm. If he plays out on the left, he's a player who, regardless of where he's deployed, he's getting his shots between the pipes. I mean, he's going to be moving centrally if he is on the left, which leaves us in a kind of a spot where Calafiori's done very well getting forward. He's good in the attack. But against Manchester United, we saw so many long balls and diagonals played to Mbomo in space because Calafiori was so far forward. Against a team like they are, you can get away with that, as Grimsby showed us yesterday. Against Mo Salah on that side, it's a completely different animal. So that's what sort of makes me lean towards maybe him centrally and Martinelli left, is we want to have someone who can keep the width without Calafiori having to be that far forward and leave him in a further back position defensively, because everybody knows how good Mo Salah is, and it's going to be extraordinarily difficult to defend him in general, let alone if you've got the fullback on that side playing far enough forward, it allows him runs into space pretty regularly. Is that something you're concerned with, or are you more, we're at their place, let's go at them and try and get goals?
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't think we can play any of our left backs that like to drop into midfield. I mean, rarely can you stop Mo Salah one-on-one, so you have to double him up. So you're going to need your fullback to stay and contain, and then you're probably going to have Zubimendi working together to help contain him. So, yeah, we don't want him to be – we don't want to show him to his inside. Or sorry, we want to show him to his inside, not his outside. So I just think it's going to be really hard for whatever left back is to play with that freedom like we did against the United, like we did against the Leeds, because this is just a different animal. And correct me if I'm wrong, but the last couple of times we've played against Liverpool, we've had some really good success.
Yeah, the last matchup at Anfield, they got out 2-0 on us in the first half. We came back, Martinelli scored, and then Mikel Merino scored to draw it back 2-2. And I believe within about 5-10 minutes of that goal, Merino made a silly challenge for his second yellow and was sent off, as is always the case in an Arsenal game. You're on about a 50-50 shot that we end it with 11 players on the pitch.
Yeah.
A 2-2 draw at Anfield, when you're starting Mikel Merino in midfield, I believe Trossard started at the striker in that game. Gabriel, Big Gabby, was out injured. So it was far from our best last season in terms of our squad, and we were still able to go there and pull out a draw. So if anything was going to inspire confidence, maybe it's the fact that we're coming off a pretty decent result at their place, given the squad we had at the time.
Yeah, 100%. Like, if I'm Arteta, I'm probably setting it up where I'm telling our left back, stay tactically astute to where Mo is. Zubimendi goes over and makes that cover. As fragile as Liverpool looked against Newcastle, Declan Rice should be able to help unlock that defense, right, from deep. So you could have him come back and cover defensively. But then you look at that front four, they should be able to cause all sorts of damage. Madueke going at Virgil, I think, with his speed and his skill, is going to be deadly. So for me, if I'm doing anything, I'm just saying cut out Mo, right? And I know they have other weapons, but he is like certain. He was like Harry Kane. He will score a goal against us. So you cut him out, stop the ball getting to his feet, and we should see some success. Mike put it in the chat. Too busy to podcast with us, but he can chat. This is as a second game in 3 weeks playing against Liverpool, right? And he's played against the new look Liverpool. So it'll be really interesting to see kind of what happens. But I haven't been impressed with Liverpool. But as they did all last season, they have figured out a way to put 3 points on the table when it doesn't look like they can do it. And so we just have to play a full 90 minutes. But again, if we come away from this with a loss, I'm not doom and gloom because we are a really good footballing side and you can't win every match. And it's one of the hardest places to play in the world. So, yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And I think you've made an interesting point. On their end, they're going to have to approach the game a little differently probably than they have in the past, in that, kind of the criticism even from Arsenal fans of ourselves last year was even in possession, we control the game. It lacked a little bit of danger. We were never asking questions of the defense. They were able to sit back. We'd horseshoe it. And while we had control in the ball, we weren't really creating too many chances. I like what you said about Madueke on the right. He creates different problems. He's very tricky, very technical, can cause issues for both the fullback on that side and Van Dijk. And then if you add to that a player who's kind of a maverick type in Eza, who can cause a lot of problems with his ability to beat somebody one-on-one. It's two areas where last year they weren't as concerned probably with that as they're going to have to be this year. And moreover, as you said already, I think I share the opinion of you and probably a lot of others. The defense at Liverpool this year has looked suspect. And we're comparing it to a very high mark as they've had one of the best defenses in football for the last handful of years. They've always been solid. But the change into the fullbacks looks to affect them a little bit. Frimpong's still going to be out this Sunday, so they're without him. And then Van Dijk, I want to preface this by saying his level was so high. Him falling off is still very, very good. He's still an elite defender. But it does look like he's starting to show the age a little bit. From when I saw him a year ago to now, it looks like he's aged 4 years. Still very, very good because his level was so high to start with. But you're starting to see some of those little chinks in the armor come through early in the season on what is not that deep of a squad. If there's one area that we have, I think, an overwhelming advantage over 38 games, it's that we're extraordinarily deep now. Something we've not been able to say about Arsenal in the past decade or more. I mean, it's been a long time. And you look at the bench from Liverpool the last couple of weeks, and it is not very impressive. There's nobody that really strikes fear in you the way they have in the past. Now, obviously, if Isak comes in for them as the season goes forward, that changes things a bit. But going into the weekend, I think Arsenal fans have good reason to feel fairly confident in our odds of going there and coming out with the result.
Yeah. Like for me, going back to the depth, say you start with, let's assume Odegaard's out. So you put Ethan in the middle, Eze on the left, Madueke on the right, and 60th minute, you can somehow you can substitute in a Martinelli or a Trossard on the left, shift Eze over if he's fit and he's willing, right, to go to the middle. You're now creating a whole different set of obstacles and issues, having Martinelli bombing down that left-hand side, right? Trossard likes to cut in, play a little bit more centrally. So if you need to, you can adjust and bring him on. Both of them, I think, track defensively. So even if you have a lead and you need to get 60th minute, 30 minutes backtracking, they'll both go back and defend. So yeah, we're really good. We're really set for this depth. For me, I can't say it enough. I think whatever the result is, obviously we want 3 points, but if we walk away with none, if we play well and Liverpool are just a better team, is what it is. What I don't want to see happen is have Liverpool go up early and us chase the match, which we seem to do a lot, right? And we know we can get at them. So for me, Jared, this season isn't one with our roster. It is one with Arteta and his team getting the boys ready to go out there and play.
Yeah, I kind of like what you said there, and I would tend to agree as usual. I'm going to read one quick comment here. It said the idea alone of Eze, Gyökeres, Madueke attack causes Liverpool to think more cautiously. Kirkez and their defense don't have great memories of two of those three guys. And yeah, as someone else said in the chat, Eze's played them a couple times recently. It does feel like one of the few times we've gone in there and should go in with some confidence and sort of a feeling of momentum. And as you said, it's never a free hit going in there. But I'm with you in that if we come away with nothing but play well, going forward, I think Arsenal fans are still going to have the confidence that we can make up those points and still win the league, knowing that they've still got to come to the Emirates. A draw away at Anfield always feels like a good result. If you go there and come away with 3 points, it sort of feels like found money, and it puts us in a really strong position the rest of the season. But like you said, I think the only really terrible result is if you go there, you look flat, you lose 3-0, and it just starts to have doubts creep in for everybody. I don't really anticipate that, just frankly, as good as they are going forward. Our defense is also, as you said, I think earlier, and I completely agree, the best in the world. And even looking at the chat today here, BX says we're leaving Anfield with something. And I think that's the general consensus of Arsenal fans after watching the first 2 weeks, is that they think we're a better team than Liverpool when healthy, which is always the caveat with Arsenal. It doesn't seem like it ever is with them. But we've got the squad to I think, give them problems this weekend. And as we go to that, I'm going to ask you quick as we get ready to prepare for the end of the show. Give me your prediction this weekend. Arsenal at Anfield against Liverpool, match week 3. What do you got?
I have Arsenal 2, Liverpool 2. I just think it's going to be a gunslinger. I'm going to say it right now. I think this is going to go down as probably the match of the Premier League. I think you're going to have two teams who are just going to go all out. I think if we are capable of winning, it's because our back five is stronger than theirs. I predict a Mo Salah goal, and I don't know why, but that new guy that looks like Trent Alexander-Arnold, like the wish version of him, just seems to get the most lucky bounces. So I'm going to go 2-2. How about yourself?
So my prediction for the weekend, I like you. I had it 2-2 written down here, but as we talk about it, I'm kind of leaning towards, I think it'll be 2-2 late, and there'll be an opportunity there at the end. Whether, we can on a break, on a counter, find Gyökeres, get a winner at Anfield, which would be massive, to be determined. I'm going to go with my brain, not my heart here. I'm going to agree with you and say 2-2 at Anfield this weekend. Do you have plans for the game, or you're going to be away from home?
So we are heading to Aspen for the holiday weekend to go to a music festival. So Oliver and I do have plans to watch it. I just don't know when or where. What about you? Oh, you're going to be meeting up with Mike. Yeah,
so I have interesting plans this weekend. Mike is in town. Some other friends of ours, a lot of folks are in Chicago this weekend. So I will not just see Mike tomorrow and hang out for a bit, but I'll be back in the city on Sunday morning at the Globe Pub, home of the Chicago Gooners, with
Excellent.
Mike to watch the game. So yeah, it should be a good day, be a lot of fun. Hopefully we can come away with 3 points and make it really one heck of a day.
So, I know that you've obviously met Mike quite a bit, but I'm going to give you a couple things on how to tame Mike. First, don't let him next to any unopened packets of bacon. Okay. And then second, and this is critical, do not let him hold a salt shaker or crusher. Right? If you can get through those two things this weekend, you're going to have a success. When how many people are you expecting at the Globe? I've been there a couple times. It's a fun pub.
Oh, it'll be shoulder to shoulder packed, and I believe I can't remember the name right off the top of my head. There's actually a second location where it's, I don't want to say overflow because it gets a lot of folks too, but when the Globe fills, there's a second location full of Arsenal fans now. So I feel like the Arsenal family locally is growing, and it's not a huge surprise that that's come at the same time. The success of the team has also gone up. I think the number of fans interested and the success rates are in two pretty similar lines tracking upwards, which is great. So we'll have to try and get to the Globe early. I'll have to make sure Mike is alive first thing Sunday morning to get him there. I may have to pick him up to ensure he arrives on time, but we'll figure it out. It should be a good weekend.
Fantastic.
All right, everybody. That's where we're going to leave it for today's show. Please leave us your score predictions in the chat as we did at the beginning of this show. We'll shout out anybody who gets it spot on. Tell us your score. Tell us your score of the game and your goal scores. Love to see who's got their predictions in the right place. And with that, we will call it a day. Please give us a like, comment, subscribe. We will be back next week. Andy and I, maybe some others. We'll see who we can get. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Have a great rest of the day.